Good morning, my friends. Well, it's good to see you again. It's been a busy week. We had a birthday in the house this week, and so we've done a lot of family stuff and meal stuff and shopping and other things. Yesterday, I wasn't even at home, and I didn't come in my studio at all. Haven't done any painting this week yet. But I did do a little bit of spinning this morning. I'm trying to start off with spinning if I can. And this is the last yellow rolag of this particular die. And so I finished that rolag, and I'm going to need to figure out how to finish off this bobbin. The bobbin really isn't very full yet, and I'd like to combine it, ply it with another bobbin that I've previously done. Haven't picked out which one yet, but that'll be fun to do. And then I'll have yet more finished yarn, like the rest of my finished yarn that I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. But I like to get it to that stage, yarn that's ready to knit or weave. The other thing I did do this week was make some more project bags. And I'm real pleased with these. I've made 3 now for the market this week. I sold one last Saturday. And I sold, I think it was another one in this fabric that was a little smaller. And so this one, I used this pink polka dot as the lining fabric. And this one, I love this outside fabric. Isn't that fun? And it's got kind of this fun batik on the inside. And then this one is sea turtles. Isn't that pretty? And it's got a contrasting teal inside. And I did buy a great big bag of beads at the thrift store for $1. And most of them are just wooden, but there's some colored ones in there too. And so I've got, this one has some fun blue-green buttons, and this one has green and orange. What did we do on this one? Oh yeah, this one has a green and kind of a wooden with a little bit of orange pink in there. So, and some fun yarns. And speaking of yarns, just I had to dump all that new yarn that was given to me in a better bag, and now I have 2 big bags of scrap yarn that I've stuffed underneath the shelf in my studio because that's where it's just going to have to live. So I have one more project bag that I'd love to do probably tomorrow. I need to paint today and tomorrow for the farmer's market on Saturday morning. I sold a lot of hand-painted cards on Saturday, and I need to have more before I go. I also picked up some more cards from the printers. These are mostly florals, like here's some daisies, but like here's an oyster shell, and these are my old poppies that I've had for a long time. They've been selling well. Here's my seagull. He has such a sassy little look. And I have a turtle as well, a little sea turtle. They're very popular. This one is popular, the dragonfly. I guess I thought I had more flowers. Here's a little packet of flowers. That's just, I think 15 cards, so only 3 packs, but I'm almost out of those. And then there was a blue flower, and I'll try to put an image of it here, that I was supposed to pick up, but they got the wrong one, and they didn't print that one, so they owe me a bunch of those, and hopefully I'll be able to get them before the market this week. I don't know. We'll see. What else? They also owe me 75 envelopes. Oh, I have been, yes, let me think. I didn't want to forget anything before I launched into this main thing. I am still working on my socks. Now, one of you, Angel, somebody out there, I'm sorry, I don't remember the names, asked for a knit along, and I don't know if that's what I've been doing. I guess maybe a knit along is where I just sit and knit and you sit and knit, and you don't need instructions and you don't need a tutorial, and I don't really know. I've never done any along before on my channel, so I really did want to take you through picking up the stitches to start the gusset. Because we've finished the heel flap and the heel turn, and now we have to pick up the stitches. I am well into the gusset at this point. Let me see if I can show you. Here is here's the ankle up here, and then here's the heel. And now I'm going into forming this triangular gusset here, and I'm pretty far along in it. I hope I didn't just drop a bunch of stitches off. No, I didn't. Okay. So I've been knitting on this in the evenings as much as I can, and I must say this pair of socks is going so much faster than previous ones because I feel like I really know what I'm doing. I'm not lost. I don't make mistakes and have to take stuff out. So I can proceed pretty quickly. So I think what I'm going to do with the rest of this video is I am going to take you through picking up all the stitches around each of these, because at this point, you know, with the heel flap we were going back and forth, and with the heel turn we were going back and forth, even though we're working both socks simultaneously. But now we're going to go back into, once you pick up these stitches, it's a little tedious and finicky, but once you do this, you have both entire socks back on the needles, and you can start doing the foot in the round going down. The nice thing about not going back and forth but being in the round is that it's all knit stitch and there's no purl, so if that matters to you. So let me start with the instructions. I'm going to put, I think, the original instructions up that don't have all my scratchiness on there, my little writing, because I think that only made it harder to read. So let's look at this, okay? Tricky, come on. Come. Come. Come on. You're a good girl. Okay, yes, I'm in a different shirt. This is a little bit later in the day. So let's go through picking up the stitches for the gusset. Okay, and this means we're going to be working our way all the way around the circle of the sock to get it back all together on our needles, both socks. So when you last finished working on your turn heel, at the end you should have ended on with a wrong side row and with a purl row, and you should have ended probably with 20 stitches. Now the instructions say 18, but ours is a little bigger. We have more stitches because we have smaller needles, so, and probably smaller yarn. So I had 20 stitches. Okay, now if you look at it here, you can see that the heel there, and it's got a marker in the middle, and so the instructions here are knit 9 stitches and then place that red marker. And then it says this is now the end of the round marker. And that is important to know where the back of that heel is, okay? It's also the same spot where you started your sock, coincidentally. But this is the center of the back of the heel, and it's the marker for the beginning of the next round. And then you're going to knit 10 more stitches, okay? And so you're going to finish off those 20 stitches right there. And then in this next photo, you see that's where my live yarn is. That's where my needle is. So I've now done those 20 stitches. Now I'm going to start picking up the stitches. And in the next picture, you can see how I'm holding that, and I've got a nice stretch ahead of my pointy needle, a nice stretch of finished rows there, the end of those rows where I'm going to need to pick up stitches, and I'm going to use that live yarn to do that. Okay, now it says to pick up 19 stitches. I was not able to get any less than 20. That's just what I was able to do along that side of the heel. Okay, and so I picked up 20 along the edge of that heel flap. Okay, and then you place another marker there when you get to the end of picking up those stitches. And then you're going to knit some stitches that are actually, they have been on a stitch saver, or I had mine on a piece of string, okay? And you're going to get those back onto your needle, the other end of the circular needle. And so that's what's happening there in that next picture. I've got that needle on there. And so it says so it says place marker, and then you're going to knit 14 stitches of the instep twice. In other words, 28 stitches. That's half of the circumference of your sock, by the way. And then you're going to place another marker. That's my blue marker. So what I've got across the top of the front, the instep of the foot, yeah, over the top of the foot. Okay, I've got my yellow marker here. Now I've got a little loop there. So I've got it divided in half. So there's my first 14, and there's my second 14, and there's my blue marker. And so these were live stitches that you would put on hold, so to speak. The instep here, they're talking about the top of your foot that goes over just below your ankle. Okay. And so I'm slipping those stitches off of that little piece of scrap yarn that I used to hold on to them while I was working on my heel flap, and turning my heel, and I'm putting them back on the other end of my needle. Okay, so what does it say to do next? And then I have to pick up stitches again along the side of the heel flap. It's a finished side without any live stitches. So basically what you're doing is you're making live stitches. You're picking up, you're using the live yarn you've got, and you're reaching your needle through, you're grabbing that yarn and pulling it up, or doing a knit stitch, so that you can put more knit stitches along that side. So it says to, after that blue marker, to pick up 19 stitches along the edge of the heel flap. Okay, again, I just was able to get 20. I couldn't get 19. It was just long enough. I needed to do 20. I probably could have done 22 or 23, but that would have made the sock kind of big, I think. Okay, and then it says knit the remaining 9 stitches. That's going to take you back to the red marker, basically. So now I'm a really a nice part of the sock. The gusset is interesting enough to not be boring, but not so hard that you have to really use all of your brain. You do a reduction in the gusset as you go around. You do a reduction every other row, and you do the reduction in the 3 stitches before either the yellow marker or the blue marker, or whatever colors you're going to pick. Of course, you don't do a reduction on the heel around the red marker. So I am on a new row here, and I'm just coming up on my red marker, and I just slip that over. I just pass it over, and I'll keep that on my needles for the rest of the times that I do this sock, so that I know where the center of the heel is as we go down the foot. So now I'm working my way toward the yellow marker, and I have done a lot of rows since I picked up those stitches. I'll show that to you in a second. Well, no, I'll show it to you right now. You can see the edge of the heel flap. You can see where I picked up the stitches because they're running perpendicular. The rows are running perpendicular to each other, which is really interesting looking. I like that look. And then you see where the yellow marker is, and you can see how I've been doing a reduction all the way along for, man, I don't know, is this like 20 rows or something? And I have a ways yet to go, because you do the gusset. Let me see, what does it say? Repeat rounds 1 and 2 until you have 56 stitches remain on your needles for each sock. And it says keep your markers in place for your toe shaping. That's important too. So what I'm doing is I'm going along. And I think I've talked about this before in doing socks. This is one of the few things maybe I've mentioned before, is as I approach the marker, I'll look at the stitches from the previous row. And if I can see that I did a reduction, because I can see 2 stitches going into 1 stitch in the previous row, then I know that I don't need to do a reduction on my current row. If I didn't do a reduction in the previous row, then I know that I do need to do one now. And as I'm looking at this, it's clear I did not do a reduction in the last one, and so I need to do one now. Okay, so I hope that helps you. I've also given you the directions for the gusset so you can work all the way down until you get to yes, you're reducing down to the same number of stitches that you cast on. So however many you cast on at the beginning of the sock, that's what you're shooting for. I cast on 64. So I'm going to do this reduction in the gusset until I have 64 stitches per sock, and then I'll be able to stop the reduction and just knit straight down. That's a really fun part too. All right, folks. Well, I hope that helps a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've got lots going on. I have a broody hen that should be hatching out chicks any day now. This hen is 8 years old. Her name is Sheena, and maybe in the next video I'll have some footage of her. We'll see. All right. Have a great week. See you next time. Bye-bye.